Hey, this is Andy.
And Randy.
And we're here on AT Corner.
Being an athletic trainer comes with ups and downs, and we're here to showcase it all.
Join us as we share our world in sports medicine.
Welcome back to another episode of AT Corner. This story episode is going to revolve around something we have to do every day as ATs.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, look at that.
So,
read your mind.
We have an episode today on relationships just in time for Valentine's Day, our last story episode before Valentine's Day.
Yes, that's true.
And we figured that this is something that our jobs are really based upon.
And something that you're not really taught in school.
No, that's a good point.
Right? We're taught how to be an AT, right? There's no doubt about that. But building the relationships...
with everyone, too. It's with your coaches, with your athletes, the parents, if you have...
admin.
Parents, admin.
Yeah.
Your peers with other athletic trainers.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
Your preceptors. Your team physician.
You gotta know how to work with people.
Yes. And also your supplier.
Yes.
Sneak peek.
Oh, what are you hinting at?
So anyway, all of those things that I listed, we have stories about.
Yes.
And I have a just crazy team doc story that I left for the end.
Oh, okay. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Which it's funny you talked about physician, because just this week my one of my students asked about, how do you get a team physician?
That is a great question.
That's a great question.
That
which
I had to learn right away on the job.
And also maybe hinting at an interview.
Yeah.
Man, we're dropping a lot of hints this episode.
So first things first, what happens when you make any relationship is what?
You gotta make the first impression.
Yeah. And we have a couple of stories of some lasting first impressions. So Katie L says, first day on my job out of grad school, a men's basketball player tore his ACL in an open gym. I had to shake coach's hand and introduce myself, followed by, so-and-so tore his ACL and will miss the season.
Nice.
Same with the athlete. I introduced myself when I went to pick him up from the gym floor. The coach and athlete respected me and what I had to say from that minute on because of how I interacted with both of them.
That's awesome. Not the way it happened, but it happened.
Right.
That's
right.
Cool that, that set the tone, how just that interaction went.
Mm-hmm. I have a horrible track record with first days.
Yes, you do.
Horrible track record with first days.
Yes, you do.
First days, first games. So my first impressions are also lasting.
Oh, very. No one forgets.
No. Nope. But I mean, I think they've all been pretty good.
Yes. I would say so.
Do you have any lasting first impressions you could think of? You met your current boss at my football game, right? No, that's when I met your boss.
Yes, but that's when I actually interacted freely outside the interview.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's same with pretty much everyone there. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah,
it was unique.
I took Randy with me to my football game, who was against his future team.
Yes.
And then he ended up...
I was just a little celebrity that day. I was toured around.
Yeah, he wasn't on my sideline anymore.
No, I went to the other sideline. I was there for a while.
I know. I was like, man, they really hijacked Randy. You can hear Arrow's...
pitter patter.
Pitter patter.
Yes, she wanted to join the show this evening.
Arrow's our live audience today.
Yep.
That's our dog, by the way.
Clearly getting fussy.
You want to read the next one?
Yes, this is another first impression by Anonymous. A coach once introduced himself as I was taping a kid's foot and said, "Hey, can you touch my feet later?" Hi, coach. Nice to meet you.
This one I got during work. This person messaged it to me during work, and I was at my desk and I had to stop, and I literally laughed out loud. And I couldn't respond to it right then, but I was like, I need to put this in
All
the
right. He was asking to have his ankle taped because his shoe was too tight for the brace he got. It was a super weird way to say it, but we had a good working relationship after. I think he just flubbed his words. Like, he meant to just ask for his ankle taped, but the words escaped him and we ended up with that. He had a jokey personality, but not in that vein of jokes.
Well, I'm glad that first impression was not reality.
Yes,
That's just kind of creepy.
I'm kind of thinking it might have been a Freudian slip. I'm just saying, kind of hints at it. Any other psych minors out there?
Okay, we got one more first impression. This one's Christina S. She said, first time I really showed my face to the boys basketball team at the high school I'm at, I slipped and ate shit on the courts trying to stop a rolling ball with my foot. My shoe had zero traction. I slipped and landed hard on my left side. Everyone was silent. They tried not to laugh. I think coach helped me up. Let's just say it was talked about for a while.
Of course.
And then she continued, just some advice. I have found that good relationships will come, but not to change who I am. I start off a little harsh or strict, but once I gain respect, I will show my fun side. A lot of kids will say they were scared of me at first, but now I'm so cool.
Of course.
Or another athlete will have to encourage them to get to know me. I find that I get genuine relationships that way. I become mom/therapist.
Of course. You've had athletes say they're scared of you.
I know. My football players are. But I think that you kind of have to in the beginning.
You got to set the tone.
I mean, it depends on the team. But because I definitely don't do that with like everyone. But football season is a different Sandra.
That's the most football athletic trainer thing to say.
Well, you're talking to one. So.
Yep.
But I feel like you kind of have to be a little strict. Otherwise, you get walked on.
That's true.
And
they like to see what they can get away with.
Right. I was just about to say, you give an inch and they take a mile.
Oh, of course.
That's your favorite saying.
Oh, of course. Because I've seen it.
Yeah. I've seen it too. And I feel like I've kind of given like my students or my volunteers like a little taste of it. And then they see it and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
As soon as you see it, you're like,
yeah, I'm not just being mean.
I understand now.
I'm not being mean.
Right.
I'm doing it for a reason.
Right. Well, you are being mean, but...
For a reason.
For a reason. Yeah.
That's how my bottles walk away.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I just lost a bottle.
That sucks. I get them back. Because it helps because they have a team room, so I know where their team room is.
Ours wasn't in the team room.
Interesting.
We don't know where it went.
I must have grown legs.
The first time in the last year and a half.
It's a shame.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it was a broken bottle.
You know what's funny is, like, my kiddos think they're, like, so sly. They're like, oh, they're going to take the bottle. They slip up. I don't need to worry. Like, I will see that bottle again. Because they'll bring it back out, and they'll leave it. And I'll just take it back.
Yeah.
That's right.
I feel like once it's like been out of the ATR, it's gross. I don't know that I want that bottle back.
Just wash it.
You have a dishwasher.
I do have a dishwasher. It is convenient. Very convenient. I'm spoiled.
Okay, so have you ever fallen in front of a team?
Well, no, that actually reminded me. So not necessarily a first impression, but it was our first. This is when I was a student, and it was our first fall ball game. So my rotation
for baseball, softball.
Yeah, baseball, and for my baseball rotation, I had it as in fall ball. So I got the joy of a regular game being like 14 innings. We had ice bags in the dugout, so we had the roll. So then we didn't have to bring out ice bags. So we had, I was going to get an ice bag ready. I grabbed the roll and then, getting ready to roll it off. I dropped the entire roll and it rolled throughout the dugout.
No one stopped it?
Not very quickly. And it just kept rolling.
That's funny.
Yep. Yep. And the guys if you've worked baseball, you could only imagine.
Oh, yeah.
The guys had a great time with that one.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah. I have not fallen. No, I'm pretty athletic around my athletes. I won't let them catch me slipping.
Uh-huh.
They get surprised when I do something athletic. They're like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, guys. I mean, everything hurts now, but I did it.
So whenever I have an ace wrap and I'm wrapping someone and I drop it, which is like, cringe. That is so cringy. Yeah. I always say, rookie move. And then I just keep going.
Yeah. If I do that, like if the pre-wrap doesn't go quite the way I was hoping for, it's always like, come on, get it together.
I know, me too. You know what? That there is such thing as first impression with tape.
Yes, a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
it's a lot of pressure.
Because if you cut them or if you do it wrong, they will never come back to you.
Yep. I have to remind them, like, hey, if you don't like this style of tape, we can do something else.
I always say, ego aside.
Yeah.
Come tell me, I will fix it. And I always say, you're the one wearing it, not me.
Yeah. Like, if you don't like this particular style, we can try something different. Mm-hmm. Like, for your shin pain, your lower leg pain, I can literally probably tape that like 10 different ways. Right. I had to pick one. Right now.
Mm-hmm. So I actually put like the most polls probably I've ever put on our Instagram story ever. But one of them is about if our listeners or our community of athletic trainers have contact with any old athletes, coaches, admin, like etc. Okay. 93% still have contact with some sort of.
I see that being true.
Yeah, exactly.
I do.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised it wasn't more like 100. 7% of our community do not have contact with any of their old athletes, coaches.
Well, maybe they're just like, oh, thank God they're gone.
You know what? I gotta say, there was one job that I was like, please don't know what kind of car I drive. Like,
oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I'm glad I live an hour away, so we won't shop at the same grocery stores.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's like the only job that I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah.
I hope to never see you again.
Yeah, I think those 7%, there's probably just those athletes that they're like, oh, I'm glad you're gone. Thank you for graduating. Thank you for transferring.
I just had an old athlete come back yesterday, the other day, this weekend.
Nice.
To a game. To come visit.
Nice, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's a good time.
Nice to see. So one of our biggest relationship, like day in, day out.
You mean who we have to talk to the most?
And who doesn't graduate. So who might have a little bit more of a long-term forced relationship.
Yes.
Are our coaches. Especially if you're in the traditional setting.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all I can say is yes. Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
So for each of these, I did put a best practice for communication with each of these entities, or at least coaches, other ATs. Yeah. And I think maybe one more. But these are just like condensed versions of the question boxes that we had up on our Instagram story.
Okay.
So with coaches, some people said, I just picked like 4.
Okay.
4 overarching themes, I would say.
Got it.
So when giving injury reports, ask if there's anyone they are worried about first.
Ooh, interesting.
Then give your list of concerns.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
I know. I like that too.
It's kind of cool.
Which is kind of funny. This one's from Haley. I didn't ask if I could share it, but that's my first preceptor. Speaking of...
So it's assumed.
Speaking of relationships, she's like, we're really close.
Yeah.
Still. So... And that's been years.
Yes. Most definitely, for sure. Big relationship built there.
And that's what I was going to say. It's kind of funny because she probably taught me this, but it's something that I'm now relearning and going to take into my practice.
Well, it was your first rotation. And there's, trust me, a lot more going through your head than how am I going to do an injury report?
She downloaded so much onto me. Another thing that actually a lot of people said was make a relationship outside of telling bad news. For examples, coffee, lunch, or when they ask you to come to dinner or get a beverage after work, go. Don't say no.
I agree to that one, and that's something I try to do. At least from the standpoint of just conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I try to talk to them like they're human beings, and like I don't want every time I talk to them just like, hey, this kid's out, or hey, this kid can only do this, this, and this.
Right.
I like to just genuinely know, how was your weekend?
Mm-hmm.
What you got going on?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I like starting those conversations. It doesn't happen like sometimes when we would travel, like if the coaches went out, sometimes I'd go. Like get dinner with them or grab a drink or two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We spent an hour talking to one of our coaches the other day, just outside in the parking lot.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was kind of like we did chalk shop a little bit, but other than that, like it was pretty much all just life.
Well, a lot of times too, I like to get their thoughts on just the team too. Like,
it's a great question to ask.
What's going on? What do they need to do? Where are we good at? Where are we not good at? Oh, if only we did this.
Oh, they love to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. That's their deal.
Mm-hmm. And then it kind of gives you some insight, too, to work.
It does. I do like it. And plus, it does show you're interested.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, that's the biggest thing that I've noticed is a lot of, again, I came from working in a sport that feels no one cares about them and feels just like they're just there. They're the ugly stepchild of athletics. So, being in an environment where really all they just want someone to just kind of seem interested, that's, it makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Another thing, ask about changes in practice schedules. Don't expect it. So I like this one because if you ask first, it gives them the opportunity to give it to you. If you just expect them to tell you the practice schedule changes, you're going to be disappointed.
Yep. Don't have that expectation because it ain't going to happen.
No. And then they don't have the opportunity to forget to tell you.
Yes.
Because you asked.
Yes, that's true.
They don't have the opportunity to not put you on the email that they emailed to everyone else.
Except you.
Yes.
That still boggles my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Still does.
And then lastly, be clear and concise, but be ready with details if they ask.
Yeah, definitely. I try not to bog them down. So I try to tell them some information that they need to know, but I try not to get down with too many details. I try to leave room for questions.
So Stephanie B said just a couple that she personally submitted. So, hey, coach, this is my role and my goals for this year and your team. Can you share some goals of yours with me? And then also, hey, coach, I'm your new AT. I'd love to learn about your team and tell you about myself and what I want to accomplish with you.
Nice.
Okay, so I want to also go into this and say these sound so cheesy, but they work.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a conversation.
Right,
You gotta get the conversation going somehow.
And honestly, like, that's going to be forgotten as soon as you start talking.
Yep.
And it's probably going to start a conversation.
Yes.
And start off on a great foot.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if you make them feel like you're trying to do what they want, things are going to go great.
Yes. There's times you just gotta make it feel like it was their decision.
Mm-hmm. I have a coach who does that with me.
Yep.
And I don't notice it at the time, and I feel great after our conversations, and then I realize that this person is a people pleaser, and they just told me that to appease me.
Yep.
So, don't do that. But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like, conversation can go a long way.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. You want to read this next one?
Yes, this one's by Maddy S. My boss kept assigning me to difficult coaches for like a year because I was the only one that could work with them. Sometimes that's like, is that really a badge of honor or is it, is it a punishment?
Keep reading.
I couldn't tell if it was a compliment or a punishment. Hey, there it is. I have a very neutral personality and try to adapt to other people's communication styles. I also over-communicate in everything, mostly so I can be left alone. But in the end, I used it to my advantage and requested to work with the teams I have now with coaches I actually like. Some tips for working with difficult coaches is to check your ego at the door. I would wait to tell them certain things until I had the full picture. It wasn't worth getting in an argument over something I didn't have the answers for yet. I would try to predict certain confrontations and plan accordingly. Like, if I was giving difficult news, I would say, hey, here's the info. I know this sucks. I don't have all the answers yet, but I'm working on getting them. If there's anything you want to know, you can ask them now, and I promise I'll get back to you with a full picture and set some sort of timeline. Oh, that's a good idea.
Also, it's so important to say, I know this sucks.
Yes.
Because sometimes you're just the bearer of bad news and you become attached to that bad news.
Yes.
But when you also share that you're on their side and you agree that it's bad news, it becomes more validating.
Oh, absolutely. I know this sucks.
Yes.
Yep.
That's my go-to when coach is mad.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times for me, it depends on the environment. For sure, games, it's really short.
Oh, it has to be.
It's just like, nope.
I don't even usually talk to the head coach on games. Usually I talk to assistants. And the assistants.
Yeah, usually I talk to the assistant coach because usually the head coach is like so involved with what's going on. Mm-hmm. And then I don't want to be in the crossfire of maybe hands flailing or something. So yeah, usually I just go up to the assistant coach, let them know, and they're like, oh, okay.
Right.
I'm like, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually do that for my teams and away teams because I do not know the other coach.
Yeah, for the visiting team, I talk to whatever coach is going to talk to me, which normally I have a good sense of who the head coach is and who's not. Mm-hmm. But as I'm walking over, whoever turns and looks at me, all right, I'm talking to you.
On my way over, talk to an athlete. I'm like, hey, who's your head coach?
That's a good idea.
And they're like, it's that one over there. Okay, thanks. And then I walk over. Hey, are you the head coach?
Yeah. See, sometimes you can kind of tell, and sometimes you just can't.
Right. I feel like we always make out coaches to be bad. But I've had a lot, especially like now, I have so many great coaches.
Yeah, same. Lately I've had a really good batch of coaches.
I'm putting an asterisk on it though, because they're great coaches and they're great people. Uh-oh. But sometimes working with them is tough. I think that's the...
Yes, but, it is true. Like, that's just kind of a part of it. As long as they're not being egregious and wild. Because I've had that. I've had coaches complain about things that are just like, bruh, like, you need to chill.
Right.
But I would say the last few, I've had a pretty good batch.
That's really good.
Coaches.
That's really good. So,
the homies.
So has Zoe K. She said that when I was a GA, I became really close to the swim coach GA since one of my sport assignments was swim and dive. Being a former college swimmer and women's water polo swim athlete myself, for sure helped establish rapport with that entire coaching staff. Myself and the swim GA really clicked personally and professionally, and she is to this day one of my best friends 5 years later, and a bridesmaid in my wedding in July.
Nice.
So special. I never had any issues with conflict in relation to return to play or injuries with coaches. Sadly, we only got to work together for a year as she accepted a D1 assistant coaching job after our first year as GAs. Dang.
Well, see that's where it's at, because the assistant coach, in my experience, the assistant coaches are always the most chill, easy to talk to. Like
not according to one of my coaches.
They feel like that is an exception. That does not prove against the rule. But they're so chill, easy going. They seem like they get it. You tell them stuff, they're like, oh yeah. I don't know what happens from being an assistant coach to being a head coach. Because I feel like once you make
more pressure on you.
Once you make that transition,
you have to be the leader. The assistant coach's mistakes are your mistakes.
So that means you get off your rocker and you just start doing weird things, and you're just like, what are we doing today?
Yes.
Interesting. I'm just saying, the assistant coach is always the easiest one to talk to.
They are. They're also usually younger.
They are usually younger. Again, where does it go wrong? It must be the pressure thing, the stress.
Yeah, I think it is.
It must be.
And the competitive. I feel like in order to be, I've been thinking a lot about this lately. I think in order to be a coach, you need to be competitive. And so in order to be competitive, you need to have certain qualities that make you hard to work with.
There you go.
Which, I mean, I'm basically just saying that I'm probably hard to work with.
No? I don't think so.
I am super competitive.
I know you are, but that doesn't mean you're hard to work with.
I think.
I mean, it was a little funny when you came home after your team lost state, and the first comment was, I don't ever want to go to state again.
That's not funny. Also, it wasn't even my team.
That makes it a little funny. You were mad.
Yeah, yeah, I don't want to talk about this anymore. We have another communicate. I think this is our last coaches one before we get into some athlete stories.
Oh, all right.
Go for it.
Aimee, right? This one's by Aimee. I had a coach move from girls to varsity boys basketball coach, and he came in with new expectations and became very demanding. During preseason conditioning, his team captain was struggling with lateral movement, so coach sent him to me for an evaluation where I quickly figured out he had broken his fibula when he stepped in a hole while hunting.
Wow.
I know, that's intense. The kid had been hiding it from coach and trying to push through. Dad refused to take him for x-rays. Rural farm kid. So I booted him for 2 weeks before reevaluation. Coach came into my office red-faced and livid. I think we've all seen that face before.
Oh, I will tell you a story about that.
He yelled about how I was trying to derail his season before even getting started. Wow. Yes, coach. I'm purposely targeting your year.
Mm-hmm.
I could have gotten up and started to yell back, but I chose to sit in my chair and let him get it out. He eventually realized how ridiculous he was being and stopped for a breath. Then I stood up and pointed my finger back at him to tell him I didn't break his kid's leg. The kid made a mistake and was afraid of the situation with a new coach. Then I told him to not ever walk into my office like that again, as I wouldn't be so kind the next time. We didn't talk for about a week, but I decided to approach him after practice one day to see if he was willing to work productively together. We talked for about an hour, and I let him know that if he would let me do my work, he would have his kid sooner than realized, and we could move forward in a productive way. He apologized, and we now have a great working relationship. He comes to me for updates about players. I email him, so it's in writing about their status. It has helped immensely. Now he even comes in just to talk from time to time, which is far better than before. Yes, I would say so.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think a coach will purposely challenge you to see if you will stand up or not.
I mean, they kind of do that with their team, too.
Yes.
They have to figure you out.
Yes. I do see that. Again, it's just like, it's like a child.
It's like a coach. Don't say it's like a child. We are not bashing coaches.
That's true. That's true. They always try to see, like, what can they get away with? Once they see you are not going to stand down, they will almost always back off and let you do what needs done. Be firm. I let coach know I would do everything possible to make sure he has his players, if he would let me do my job.
Yeah, I feel like we could have a whole episode on relationship with coaches.
That's true.
I feel like maybe we have. I feel like that sounds kind of familiar.
Good question.
Good question.
Good question. Probably, maybe.
In the 100+ episodes we've done.
It might be somewhere.
I think we have.
Maybe we need to revisit.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, even just conflict with coaches, I think.
Yes.
I think we've done that.
Probably. I think so.
I had a football coach come into the clinic, and I've never seen him yell and he was red in the face.
Oh, no.
And he reamed me while I was taping ankles for requiring a doctor's note for clearance.
Okay.
And I let him yell, and then he walked away, and the kid was actually the kid in question. He was in the clinic. So then I talked to the kid and told him, like, you know what you needed. And then I go and I'm talking to the assistant coaches because they need to be clued in too.
Yeah.
And then I go back to the football coach, and I don't remember if he apologized. But I did tell him, like, you know, I'm sorry that this is the situation, and I'm sorry that, like, he knew this and he didn't, like, follow through.
Mm-hmm.
But you knew this too.
Yeah.
Like, just because I am following our policy doesn't mean that it's my fault.
Yes.
That was frustrating.
Oh,
and
100%.
it's so hard to, like, also not get mad when you're getting yelled at.
Oh, of course.
Especially, like, red in the face yelled at.
Yes.
That's, like, frustrating.
Oh, very frustrating.
So before we let the coaches take away this episode, let's get into relationships with old athletes.
Yes.
So Jenn B said, I have so many old athletes I still keep in touch with. It's one of my favorite things. I tell them if they come in here often, when they're here, they won't be able to get rid of me that easily when they leave. I love that it seems like no matter what, if I text almost any of my old athletes, they answer right away, and some come back to see me if they are ever in the area. I've made a trip to watch one play pro and plan on traveling to Spain hopefully this summer to see two of them who are now married with a baby. He's playing pro over there, and I keep up with his wife, who played here as well. We talk often. I keep in touch with a few old assistants and have hung out with them if they come around. We all kind of feel like there's something bonding about spending time here.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's, like, the best kind of place.
Oh, 100%.
Like, the place that, like, you are able to text or call your old coaches. I know a lot of people, it's, like, easier with the athletes.
Yeah.
Maybe because we are, like, taking care of them more rather than, like, a coworker.
Well, we spend a lot of time with them.
We do spend a lot of time with them.
And we get to know them. And you see them in probably one of their worst states, very vulnerable state.
Right. I actually still talk to the principal of the high school I used to work with.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. When I traveled down to where we used to live with our football team, we
drove by it.
We drove by.
Yep.
I messaged her. We were texting back and forth for a little bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And she was like, oh my goodness, we were just talking about you.
I wonder if your parking spot's still there.
My awesome parking spot.
Yep.
That was legit.
That was legit.
I want another parking spot.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we're still like so good.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. See, they see the value.
Yes, they do. They did. They really did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, you should read this one.
All right, this one's by Spencer P. One of my ACL athletes called me on his first game day back in tears saying I should have been there, and he was so grateful. This was about 3 to 4 months after I left, and we still talk about once a week. I am honestly just grateful. For every 10 athletes that forget about you when you're done, it's the ones like that that remind me why I started doing this in the first place. I was by his side from carrying him off the field to surgery to rehab over FaceTime during Christmas break to running again for the first time. It's just gratifying to know that our impact can persist even after we are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had an athlete like that. She tore her ACL and, started the process before her surgery, helped her with the rehab, and she transferred out, so we didn't get to see how her rehab finished up, but she would text me her milestones.
Oh, that's really cool.
She'd be like, hey, I just started running, and, I got that text like, hey, this was my first game back. So it was really cool.
You know what I think is really special is sometimes those athletes that you didn't realize you made an impact on, and they're the ones who come back and tell you.
Oh, definitely.
Like, I had this kid who was having this fibular pain and, like, almost like a nerve pain. And I don't remember, it was It was from season, but he didn't see me right away. And so I don't know if he went to go see someone else first.
Yeah.
But then he ended up coming to me, and we ended up working through and trying to figure out what it was. And I think I only saw him, like, I saw him during season, but like I think I only saw him like a few more times after.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe 6 months later, I get an email from him saying that he's transferring and thank you so much for everything.
Oh, that's awesome.
That I've done for him. And I'm like, wow, like that's so sweet of him to go out of his way, because I didn't even, he was just like another athlete. It wasn't like someone who I'd really made a special bond with.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, that is like so sweet that he reached out.
Yeah.
But there was an athlete who emailed, or not emailed, he texted me when we were on our honeymoon. And so we were in the mountains, so we didn't have any service, but so we didn't get it for a while, but he was like one of my athletes who I made a really special bond with. Helped him through some mental health stuff and just being there in general.
Yeah.
And that was like really sweet to get. That was during the winter, and then our honeymoon was in the summer.
Yes.
Yeah, so like a while after too.
Yeah.
After he had transferred and everything.
Yeah, I had that with not too long ago with like a couple athletes. Like this was like years apart. I had one of them reach out, just texted me out of the blue saying just how thankful she was for, that impact I made a couple years ago, and it was really nice.
Yeah, you do get those texts a lot.
Yeah, I was just completely random. I didn't anticipate getting a text like that.
I know, it's like the impact we make.
Yeah,
actually, one of the kids who I was talking about, he transferred and is starting in like strength and conditioning.
Nice.
And because of like his mental health struggles and stuff, and because of like also like the stress of transferring and all this stuff, like it's really cool to get some of his updates, because he'll send me a picture. Like he sent me a picture of his student ID.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
I was like, oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
That you are sharing like you're saying like milestones. You're sharing milestones with me. That is so cool.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah. And then actually we got I'm not going to say what year this was, because then it might say who it is, but there was a picture of this athlete on an item that was distributed to our student body. And that one of the pictures was of this student athlete.
Nice.
And so I sent a picture back to him, and I was like, hey, this is like, I don't know if you know this, but you're on this.
This is you.
Yeah. So cool. So we have another one. This one is a little bit different because it's not in the traditional setting.
Ooh, okay.
You want to read it?
Yes, this one's by Rachel L. D2 setting, Army ROTC cadet who was my patient and my student as she was on the pre-PT route. I had her in some of my courses as well as in the athletic training room. I worked with her on a very unique injury she sustained at basic training. A delayed healing impaction fracture to her tibia from kneeling on a rock.
Whoa.
Ouch. That sounds brutal.
Yeah.
I worked with her very often. During her rehab sessions, I opened up to her about some personal things, and she in turn eventually felt comfortable doing the same. It created the start of a bond between us. A year later, she didn't come to class one day after Easter break. She had gone to see her dad, who she hadn't seen in a long time. I reached out and she told me it went horribly, and she wasn't in any state to come to class. I urged her to attend my office hours to talk. After saying no twice and me insisting 3 times, she came in and broke down in my office. Eventually, we got her to the counseling center. A year after that happened, she was doing so much better mentally and spiritually, and she told me that the day I insisted she come in to talk, she was sitting with a bottle of pills contemplating suicide. This all was about 7 years ago, and we are friends to this day. I went to her wedding, and she traveled many states to come to my baby shower. Now she and I both have sons who are about 6 months apart. We text and keep in touch a few times a month. What a blessing.
Seriously.
That's crazy.
Isn't it?
Again, it just goes to the impact.
Mm-hmm.
The impact that we make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one's a really special one. Impact with athletes, but also with parents.
That's
if you
right.
have parents in your realm of patient
Hey,
population.
sometimes it doesn't have to be like that, right? Like everyone kind of talks about, like, oh, work with minors. No, even in the collegiate setting, somehow parents do get involved.
Yes. So Christina S says, I have one injury-prone athlete that whenever I see his parents, they assume I'm the Grim Reaper. And I'm just like, I came to say hi.
Yeah, that was like one of mine.
Mm-hmm.
There was a one athlete that I had to that usually when mom was there, something bad kind of was happening.
Oh.
So she saw me take care of her son multiple times. So yes, it became just, oh, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah. One of my football parents of a very injury-prone athlete was like, I wish I didn't have to know you because of this.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, now into the nitty-gritty communication with your other athletic training peers.
With the peers, the coworkers.
I know. So first, some best practice for communication with other ATs. When your peer is covering your game, leave them with a cheat sheet with info and taping.
Nice. That's good.
Communicate where athletes are in their treatment or rehab plan. Share what your philosophy is, which I would like to do an episode on because I feel like not a lot of people.
That's a good one.
Everyone talks about what their philosophy is, but I don't know that a lot of people like reflect on it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Text, call, email other ATs about injuries that happened while their team was under your care.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a huge
I agree
one.
with that.
Huge. We actually have a story about that too. And then also give a heads up if you have a bajillion ankles to tape.
Big time. Big time.
Yeah.
Especially if they're traveling to your school, like traveling to another school.
Oh, by the way, my entire volleyball team gets taped.
Yeah. Don't let it be a surprise.
Thank you for letting me know so I actually leave enough time.
Yep.
Or maybe bring a student.
Or at least to mentally prepare that, yep, I'm going to be taping this many ankles. My back might hurt because the taping table or the treatment table.
Or maybe I need to eat a little bit earlier.
Yes.
So this first one I put in is pretty fun by Katie L.
Okay.
Some of my best friends have been my coworkers from past jobs. The best part is playing them when one of you have left and getting to reconnect across the side.
You get to talk trash.
Yep.
I did that this weekend.
Yes.
Hey, you wanted that.
Randy and my teams played each other. Or actually schools. Neither of us work that day.
Yeah, no. It was just our schools that we work at.
Yeah.
We crushed.
We did chalk trash. I asked my co-head to send me a picture from the softball game, and I was like, hey, I'm going to
Wait a minute. You weren't even there to take the picture?
I mean, yes, I took that picture.
Whatever. I'm disappointed. I didn't see that coming. I thought you actually were out there to take the picture.
No, I was actually really busy in the clinic.
Okay.
It was a good game.
It was a good game. I was at swim when it was happening.
But yeah, seriously, one of my best friends is one of my coworkers from the past.
Yes.
And two of my bridesmaids were athletic trainers, I think. Two, yeah.
Yes, two. Well, I mean, our wedding was mostly athletic trainers.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. It was basically the District 8 meeting right there.
I mean.
We even had a social after.
All right, actually, this next one goes back to our, what we were talking about.
Trash talking?
No,
before. I was ready.
This one goes back to our talking to other ATs.
Okay. This one's by Anonymous. I think a lot of it is respecting boundaries, but also remembering we're in this together. What I'd really like to see more of is reaching out in the high school setting or even smaller college setting where traveling with your team isn't as big. Just to say, hey, I got your kids and I'll reach out if I need to treat any of them. This is especially true within your conference since you see each other's kids multiple times per school year. Even if it's an out-of-conference game, I still think we need to have that communication so that the athlete is getting the best possible care. Fair?
Honestly, I am surprised this isn't standard. And if you are listening to this AT Corner podcast, you better make this standard.
Yeah.
You heard it here.
When my team's traveling, I like to email the host AT, at least with my taping list. If there's like specialty tapes.
Right.
Like if I have a couple maybe getting like just regular ankle tape, I do that too, but like sometimes I'm like, I don't need to say too much.
Here's how you help an AT out.
Yeah.
You have a specialty tape, take a video, send it with your athlete.
Yes.
They all have phones. Hey, I'm going to tape your knee today. Take a video of me taping your knee and show the other athletic trainer. And I'm going to email them and say, so-and-so kid has a video.
Yeah. And make sure you give your kit to someone you trust. Either coaches or team captain.
Stock your kid.
Yeah. Stocked kit is good too.
If your team forgets their kit, because all teams forget their kits, or if your team doesn't bring your kit back to get stocked, the next time you play that athletic trainer, send a goodie bag with tape.
With interest.
Also, if an injury happens under your care, you bet your bouillon that you are going to write that athletic trainer a soap note, a diagnosis, and some information about what you did. Not just like, they'll let the kid, I told the kid to check in with you. It'll happen.
You bet your bippy.
No.
Yep, that's what it is.
You bet your bouillon.
You bet your bippy. I wish you get a poll. I think we should. We did the poll for the fanny pack versus sling pack. I think we gotta do it for bet your bippy.
No.
Because I'll win that one.
Okay. So this next one is with a boss.
Okay. Boss.
So this is anonymous. They said, I didn't get along with my boss for years 1 to 3.5.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know what switched, but now we get along just fine. I looked for a job every summer, but nothing stuck. I don't agree with leaving in the middle of a season and leaving someone in a lurch, so new jobs just never really panned out. My boss got along fine with others. After a lot of self-reflection, it was just that we had very different personalities. She's the type of person who will just tag along if she wanted to do something, but I'm the type of person who needs an invitation. Once I realized that, I stopped taking things so personally, and we got along a lot better. Now, things are fine.
Nice.
Self-reflection is so important if you want to grow as an athletic trainer. It's like anything. Like if you miss an assessment and we're wrong, you don't just sit there and do the same assessment over again. If you don't look back and what you did or did not ask or do, how are you ever going to get it right the next time?
That's true.
And then she also added, thank you for being willing to have an open dialogue is so needed.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
I think that's actually a really good point, is that so many people are like, oh, I have a bad relationship, and they just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And 1, they don't do any self-reflection. 2, they don't communicate with the other person who they have a quote-unquote bad relationship with, and it just left. Like, what do you do with that? There's no moving on from this.
Yeah.
Now, every time something happens, you are going to add it into the bucket of, this is why we have a bad relationship.
Yes.
Confirmation bias.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of trying to work towards the opposite.
Yeah.
Or noticing when the opposite is true.
Yes, definitely.
It's like when you're trying to buy a car and you start to see that car a ton.
All the time.
All the time. So I also put one in about a relationship with yourself.
I would say this is pretty, on par with the like self-assessment, self-reflection.
Mm-hmm. You want to read it?
This one's by Anonymous. Reading books and seeking out podcasts, especially AT Corner, were the easy ways to do the work. When I started listening to feedback and not just hearing it so my feelings weren't hurt, I then worked to check in with how that felt and what I would need to do to make changes for me and for others going forward.
Self-work is the key to your communication.
Yes, 100%.
this is going to be another plug for the Enneagram because I use it with all of my students. I use it on myself. I use it when I'm trying to understand someone else's perspective. And it has just changed how I look at other people and what they do.
Yeah.
If you don't know what the Enneagram is, it's not a personality test like an outward personality, but it's actually what motivates you to make the decisions that you make. And I think it's really fascinating. It kind of just gets I think that the more you know yourself, the more you get to know other people. And that's why I really instill it in my students. Like, you need to get to know yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know how you're going to respond, how are you going to expect others to know how you're going to respond?
Yeah.
And how do you expect others to take whatever you respond with and be able to communicate with that?
Yes.
I think it's important.
Oh, 100%. The Enneagram is pretty dope.
So we have just two preceptor ones left, and then we have our crazy physician story.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. We have another one from Christina S. She said, he was extremely hard on me. I think he made me cry once, but I just kept trying to prove myself and ask what I can do better. He's honestly the reason why I feel so confident with evaluations now, especially history questions.
Nice. I think we've all had a preceptor like that.
Yep.
And those tend to be the ones where you learn the most.
I think it depends on your learning style.
True.
Actually, okay, that I did have a preceptor who I learned a ton from, but we did not get along that well. But I learned so much.
Yeah.
But I mean, not everyone is like that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You can also learn a ton from people who you actually like.
Yes, that is very true. You can. It doesn't have to be one way or the other.
Right. But there are definitely lasting relationships on both. Yes. I guess. Another lasting relationship is how your not just your clinical rotations, but also your program.
Yes, that's true. This one's by Anonymous. I had a very toxic, clique-like environment where I did my undergrad. And of course, as great as it was, I got preceptors that also participated in that culture. So going into being a certified, I felt so alone on who to put down for references.
Shoot.
I know, that's kind of a bummer. I know that having like a cliquey environment, that sucks. Mm-hmm. I thankfully had jobs outside of AT related in the field that helped me. A PT clinic. But now I'm paving my own path starting fresh as a certified. When I graduated is kind of how I removed myself. As for tips, I kind of took the high road and didn't stoop to their level and knew if I did what I needed to do, there really wasn't anything they could say about me.
So I purposefully included good and bad in this episode. And the reason why, because, I feel like every February we kind of do like a relationship episode, or we've also done like relationship with coaches and like how to improve those things, or like the lasting effects that we've had, or the value of an athletic trainer, like those are all positive. But I feel like the importance of a bad relationship is that you can also learn from yourself and from that other person of what not to do. Yeah. Just like when we did the episode on making mistakes and how to move forward from those, it's the same thing with like your not so great relationships, the ones that you can't pick, the ones you can't get away from. You have to kind of figure out how to work through them while you're there.
Yes, absolutely.
Because, I mean, in a perfect world, it'd be nice that you could get along with everyone, but we all know how that works.
Yeah, no. Especially within athletics, with just so many moving parts, everyone trying to move in the same direction, but different ideas of how to get there, it makes it tough.
So the story we've been hyping up.
All right, here we go.
You should read it.
All right, this one's by Anonymous. I had a situation where I had to spine board a ref.
Which,
that's already crazy.
Way, I know.
We already started crazy. He had been making bad calls all game against my football team. Once I was done with the process, not even realizing my physician wasn't with me during that process, I found him sitting on the bench on the sideline. He then said, "You're better than me." He was cheating all game and I couldn't help him. At that point, I knew I needed to find a new team physician. Oh, absolutely.
Dude.
There's no way.
There's more.
It was during a football game. He had 2 hip replacements and couldn't really run up and down the field well.
Man, that's tough as a ref.
Yeah. It was during a kickoff play. He was trying to get out of the way of a tackle. He tripped backwards and fell and hit his head and was unconscious.
See, another reason kickoff sucks.
Yes. After we get him off the field, I turned back to my bench to see my team doc sitting on the bench with his legs folded and saying how I'm a better person because he was not helping a cheater. I lost all respect for him as a healthcare provider and had to go in search of a new team doc.
Okay, I can kind of see like, no, I'm not going to tape his ankle.
Yeah, something minor like that. But like a real situation, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and you're going to come across people like this, and I think
unfortunately.
Sometimes you are able to distance yourself from that relationship, and sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
And so when you have someone of such different morals, that's a difficult situation.
Yeah.
That's a difficult situation.
100%.
That's something I would definitely turn to my mentors for.
Yes.
Like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
I need help.
Yeah. How do I find a new team doc when I have a team doc?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember those conversations. So I know that we had a ton of stories for this episode. If this makes you think of another story, then make sure you email us at atcorners@gmail.com. Or you can post on our Facebook group, facebook.com/atcornerpodcast, where you can also find upcoming story episode topics. We also post prompts for upcoming stories in our Instagram stories, which is where you can actually submit your own. You can answer our poll questions, look at our prompts, all that, which not next week, but the week after, we're doing swim stories. But we're recording that one a little bit early. So those podcast questions should actually be up now if I didn't already put them up.
Nice. Yep. That'll be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And then go.
If you guys are new, we do every other episode as education or stories. This one was I almost said this was an education.
I mean, it was very educational.
This one is a story episode. So next week we are going back to our education. Yes. This
is our interview.
You want to tell them?
Yes. We have a very exciting interview for next week talking about the professional setting.
With who?
With someone who was with the Angels organization for 30 years. We are interviewing Ned Burgert.
Yeah, it's a really good one, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Randy, do you have anything else to add?
Nope, that was perfect. Thank you for helping us showcase athletic training behind the tape. Bye.